Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, is now a dictator. Peace, family, peace, and welcome back to Sarah's Reviews. Now, have you seen this?
These measures must be and will be compliant with our Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, evokes the Emergencies Act. What is the Emergencies Act, I hear you say? First of all, let's listen to him speak. Second of all, we'll go into the Emergencies Act.
We're entering the third week of illegal blockades that have been disrupting the lives of too many Canadians.
First of all, the use of language. Illegal blockades. Illegal blockades is what he actually says. Now, protests are now illegal. Just listen to the language.
Here in our capital city, families and small businesses have been enduring illegal obstruction of their neighborhoods.
Second time he's used the word illegal obstructions. Keep listening to the words.
Occupying streets, harassing people, breaking the law. This is not a peaceful protest. At the borders in different parts of the country, the blockades are harming our economy and endangering public safety.
Truckers are actually protesting against the mandates, and he's worried about the harming of, the citizens of this country. What I find interesting is that the use of language about the economics of Canada and the physical health of the people of Canada, whereas these mandates that Justin Trudeau is actually implementing or attempting to implement have been shown to, affect, the mental health and the financial health of people in general. So, I find that quite interesting that it's okay to affect your people financially and physically and mentally when he feels like it, I guess.
Critical supply chains have been disrupted. This is hurting workers who rely on these jobs to feed their families. Yesterday, the Ambassador Bridge was reopened between Windsor and Detroit. Our team and I have been working with Ontario and the City of Windsor around the clock. I want to thank the officers on the ground, including the RCMP, who played an active role. We now have a responsibility to make sure that the bridge stays open. With each illegal blockade, local law enforcement agencies have been acting to keep the peace within their jurisdiction. Despite their best efforts, it is now clear that there are serious challenges to law enforcement's ability to effectively enforce the law.
First of all, let's go into what the actual Emergencies Act is as we continue to listen to him. I'm going to read a little bit from lawnow.org. When I agreed to write about the Emergencies Act, I had no idea that I would end up doing so at a time when the federal government was actually considering resorting to this never-before-used legislation. But with the arrival and the spread of COVID-19 in Canada, this act is an option the government has considered. While its use seems unlikely at the time of writing, I'm going to pause there. This was written in July the 2nd, 2020. By the time you read these words, the act may well be in effect in some or all of Canada. Coming events will determine this. This was written by Charles Davison. Now, what does the Emergencies Act actually enforce? It imposes censorship on all publications and writings, arrest, detain, exclude and deport persons without the need for charges or trials, take over control of harbours and ports and all means of transportation, intervene in all trading of any sort. Let's listen to more of Trudeau.
On Friday, Ontario invoked a state of emergency to respond to the blockades. This was the responsible and necessary thing to do. Today, to continue building on these efforts, the federal government is ready to use more tools at its disposal to get the situation fully under control.
Just listen to the language. He's ready to use more tools to get the job done. What does that actually mean? What I've noticed with, speakers, leaders and stuff, they know when and where to use vague language and when and where to use direct language. At this point in time, he's using very vague language. He's saying more tools. What are those more tools? It's very interesting times that we're living in.
After discussing with Cabinet and caucus, after consultation with premiers from all provinces and territories, after speaking with opposition leaders, the federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act to supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations. I want to be very clear. The scope of these measures will be time-limited, geographically targeted, as well as reasonable and proportionate.
Reasonable and proportionate. Both subjective terms. For instance, if somebody is shot or somebody is killed, which I'm not hoping for in the slightest, they can now deem it reasonable or appropriate, depending on what they say was actually happening. You have to listen to the language, folks, okay? They are vague for a reason.
The threats they are meant to address. The Emergencies Act will be used to strengthen and support law enforcement agencies at all levels across the country.
Strengthen and support law enforcement agencies at all levels.
This is about keeping Canadians safe, protecting people's jobs, and restoring confidence in our institutions.
I think it's safe to say, Mr. Justin Trudeau, that people have no confidence in your institution. I think the people of Canada are showing you that they have no confidence in your institution, and that is the reason why you actually have this protest in the first place. They don't have any confidence in your institutions. But it doesn't seem like you're understanding that as the leader of your nation.
We're not using the Emergencies Act to call in the military.
I mean, thanks, but let's just say not yet. I'm skeptical of this Emergencies Act, and I think they are going to spiral into a place that we are gonna witness in this modern time that we haven't actually witnessed before. When people are disgruntled, which is clearly what the people of Canada are, and the government is in power, something seems to always go a little bit wrong when it comes to the people. And it's never really the government that end up with the bad side. It's always the people. So I would say, okay, fine. You have not called in the military yet, and you say you're not going to. However, let's see.
We're not suspending fundamental rights or overriding the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We are not limiting people's freedom of speech. We are not limiting freedom of peaceful assembly. We are not preventing people from exercising their right to protest.
Peaceful assembly are the truckers assembling, but you're saying that you're not limiting peaceful assembly. That's exactly what you're doing.
We are reinforcing the principles, values, and institutions that keep all Canadians free.
If I'm totally honest, I think this guy is just reading. And at this point, I think he is a bit of a sociopath at this point in time. I think when it comes to Mr. Trudeau, he could have met with the truckers. Justin could have met with the truckers. He could have met with them to talk about their concerns and, talk to his actual people. But he actually didn't. He didn't do that. And that to me says that that is a man that is disconnected from his people. The fact that he won't go and speak to his people, the fact that he chose confrontation over diplomacy, says to me that there's a disconnect between this man and his people. And so to close, I want to actually read something that I've actually written about Trudeau. So Trudeau displays all the signs of a sociopath, in my personal opinion. He confuses democracy with autocracy. He's blindsided by peaceful displays challenging his gross overreactions. He is a man that will be condemned today and in the future for a gross overreaction to legitimate concerns of the Canadian public. When this protest started, Trudeau only had to contend with what he called a fringe minority group of disgruntled truckers. But today, Trudeau has seemingly done what perhaps he never intended, and that is to unify the world against him. This is a man who has called the truckers racists, and there is clear footage of Trudeau dressed up in blackface. Okay, and I went into this on another video. The president of Canada, for instance, has twice been shown to be dressed up in blackface.
It's a short sequence lasting only 4 seconds, no audio. So if we freeze it on that image there, you can see that Justin Trudeau does appear to be in blackface.
But he had the audacity to call the truckers racist. The sad part of this is that this has all been avoidable. To the truckers in Canada, I want to say this. You are on the way to a great victory against the forces of intolerance that have exposed the nasty, rotting underbelly of liberal orthodoxy. You have done the world a great service, and I stand with you today. Thank you for doing what you are doing and standing up to tyranny. Peace.